Today we're going to show you how to change the drum belt on your dryer, and it's a really easy job. All we're going to need is a Phillips screwdriver and a putty knife. Let me show you how we do it. Now before we begin this repair, the first thing we're going to need to do is to pull the dryer away from the wall and disconnect the power to it. So if it has a cord on it, simply unplug it. If it's a hardwired dryer, you'll need to locate the fuse panel or the breaker panel and disconnect the power there. And next we're going to raise the main top on it so that we can gain access to the front panel. So using your putty knife, we're going to go in about 3 inches in from either edge, and you'll feel a resistance there, and that is a spring that holds that top down. Do the same on the opposite side. Just push in on that spring clip, and you can pull the front panel forward, roll it up, and remove it. Then next we'll locate 2 screws, one on either side at the top, that go through the cabinet and into the front panel. We'll need to remove those. Now at that point, we should be able to pull the front panel forward. There's a couple of spring clips on either side. We'll have to disengage those. And once we tilt it a little bit forward, you'll have access to the wires to the door switch. So we'll disconnect those. And tilt the panel down. And then lift it clear of the 2 clips on the bottom, and we'll set it aside. Now our next step, if the belt is still on your dryer, you'll need to remove that, and there'll be tension on it, so you'll have to release the tension on the idler pulley to remove the belt. So we'll reach in over top of the motor, and you'll find the belt and the idler pulley. And we're going to pull that idler pulley towards the center of the drum. Just push on the bracket, and that will release the tension on the belt enough that you can roll it off of the idler wheel. All right, next we're going to lift sharply up on that drum to disengage the rear drum bearing. And then we can lower it down and tilt it out through the opening at the front of the cabinet. Then you can remove the old belt. Now with the drum out of the way, it's a good opportunity to check around the element area here and make sure that everything is in good shape there. Make sure there's no deep sags in that element and that it's clean of lint in that area, as well as the dryer cabinet itself. It's a good opportunity to clean that out and vacuum around the motor windings to make sure that they stay nice and cool while it's running. Check the idler pulley. Make sure it turns freely on the shaft, and if not, it'll need to be lubricated. So we can discard the old belt. Now the last thing before we reinstall that drum, we'll check that rear drum bearing and make sure that's in good shape and that there is plenty of lubrication in it, as well as on the ball at the back of the drum. We'll then take our belt and wrap that around the drum. And then we're going to fit it through the opening. And using the belt to support the rear of the drum, just pull that all the way through. And then we'll line up that rear bearing, make sure it's sitting in position. And you'll know that it is when you can't pull the drum forward. So then line the belt up along the marks where the previous belt was. And then we're going to reach in again above the motor and blower housing. We'll find that belt and the idler pulley. And then we're going to rotate the belt around the motor pulley, pull it up through between the idler pulley and the shaft. At the same time, we need to make sure that we have the spring engaged on the bracket on the motor. We're just going to push that motor pulley towards the center. Make sure the belt sits down into the pulley. And then we're going to rotate that drum to make sure that the blower wheel turns, which will give us an indication that we have it properly seated. Just rotate that a few times. Make sure that the belt lays in the proper spot on the drum. And then we can reinstall the front panel. Now that we have the drum properly positioned, we're next going to put that retaining block in place. So we'll line it up, insert the one screw, and then we can put the front panel back on. Now when reinstalling the front panel, we want to make sure that we line up the two slotted openings in the bottom lip of that front panel with the two clips attached to the front of the cabinet. And we'll also need to make sure that the clips on the sides line up with the appropriate spots. So line up the bottom first, make sure it sits all the way down into the base, and tilt the front panel forward. And then we're going to lift up on that drum to allow the front bearing to slide into the opening of the drum. Then next we'll secure the front with the two screws from the inside, and then we'll reconnect the wires to the door switch. And make sure they fit nice and tight on those terminals on the switch. And now we'll put the main top back on. So we're going to make sure that we engage this little notched out portion on either side in front of this rear support bracket. And then we'll line up the three tabs on the control panel with those openings in the top. Line it up square, and then just snap the top down at the front. We're now ready to push the dryer back into position, reconnect the power, and our repair is complete.